most people who decide to finally get serious about their money quit within 3 months of starting. And that's not because they're lazy or undisciplined, but it is because almost everyone starts with the same step, the one that feels the most responsible, and that step is exactly what burns them out. I'm a financial advisor, and in this video, I'm going to give you the honest plan that I would give you if you sat down across from me. I will show you what steps everyone starts with that they shouldn't and where it actually belongs, and later in this video, I want to talk about a trap that I would argue is even more dangerous because it feels like progress but can quietly cost you years. So let's get into it. First, let me decide what I mean by starting over, because I don't necessarily mean that you lost everything and have to start over. For some of you, that might be the case because there was a breakup, a divorce, or a business that didn't work out, and you genuinely are rebuilding that. This plan will work exactly the same for you, but for most of you watching, starting over means something quieter. It means that you've spent years kind of drifting, money comes in, money goes out, and you keep telling yourself that at some point you will figure all of it out. For you, starting over is simply the moment that you decide, I'm done drifting, I'm taking this seriously now, and I'm going to actually have a plan. If that is you, if this is the year that you've decided to stop avoiding your own finances, then honestly, that decision is the hardest part because most people never make it. But a decision without the right plan is how you end up back at square one within a few months. So let me show you how to make it actually stick. Remember how I said almost everyone starts with the wrong step? Here's what most people do the moment that they decide to get serious about money. They make a budget, a strict one, and then they cut the takeout, they cancel the subscriptions, they cut everything fun because being serious about money means being disciplined, right? That's what they think. And then they last about 6 weeks. Because the thing about extreme restriction, and this is true for money exactly like it is true for dieting, it doesn't fail because you're weak. It fails because it was never sustainable in the first place. You white knuckle it through January, feel miserable, slip once in February, feel like a failure, and conclude that you're just bad with money when actually the plan was bad and it's not you. So no, the strict budget is not a step one. Cutting expenses does have a place in this plan, but it comes much later and in a much gentler form than you think. Step one is something that will cost you nothing and changes everything. The actual first step is that you sit down one time and look at your complete financial picture. Every account, every debt with the interest rate next to it, what comes in each month, what goes out, and where it goes. And I know that if you've been ignoring your finances for a while, then this genuinely is the scariest step in the whole plan. But I need you to hear this. The anxiety of not knowing is almost always worse than the reality of knowing. When you don't know your numbers, your brain will fill in the gaps with worst case scenarios, and that fear is heavier than any real number could ever be. The moment all of it is on paper, it stops being a monster and it becomes a math problem. And math problems have solutions. This is also, by the way, where you will find money that you didn't know that you had, because almost everyone who does this exercise finds subscriptions they forgot, payments they don't recognize, and spending patterns that they had no idea about. And that's why most people don't actually have an income problem or a discipline problem. They have a visibility problem. So you have to put everything on paper. What you own, what you owe, what flows in, what flows out, that's your real starting point. And I want you to actually go through your banking app a whole month of transactions and categorize each of them into categories so that you know how much money went to what. Now let's go to step two, which is where the building starts. And it starts smaller than you would expect because your first goal is simply a small buffer. Think around $1,000 or 1 month of essential expenses in a separate savings account. If you have no buffer and life happens, so think the car, the laptop, the dentist, you have no choice but to put it on a credit card or borrow money, which means that one single emergency can undo months of progress and land you right back at the start, except now more demoralized than before. And this little buffer is what fixes the structure. There's also quieter reasons that this comes first, because when there's absolutely nothing between you and disaster, your brain lives in survival mode, and a brain in survival mode makes short-term, fear-driven decisions. Now, if you're wondering, okay, but where do I find that money? That's exactly where step 3 comes in. Step 3 is where we deal with spending, and here's where that budget idea finally gets its place and not just the version that feels, right? So I want you to go back to the list of expenses from step 1, and instead of asking, what can I cut, ask a different question about each thing. Does this actually bring me value? So we're not going to look at, is this technically necessary? Did I need this thing? No, I want you to ask yourself if it genuinely added something to your life, because there are things on that list that do add value, and I promise you that those things can stay, and they can stay guilt-free. free. But there are also things on that list that you're paying for out of pure autopilot. So think of the subscriptions that you're not using, the deliveries that you don't even enjoy, and the stuff that you buy and forget about. So that's the spending that you cut aggressively, and you won't even miss those things because they were never making you happy in the first place. And this is exactly what the difference is between restriction and redirection. Restriction says that you cannot have anything, and redirection says keep what you love, cut what doesn't bring you value, and point that money at your actual goals. One of those approaches survives past month 2 and the other one doesn't. Whatever you free up here, that's what builds your buffer and then powers everything that comes next. Now, step 4 is looking at your expensive debt. Once your buffer exists, everything extra goes to high interest debt payments. So think of credit cards, buy now, pay later balances, anything with a double-digit interest rate. And sometimes people do ask me, should I not be investing instead of paying off my debt? Isn't that how you build wealth? So let me give the honest math, because the stock market returns on average somewhere around 7 to 10% a year over the long run. Now, if your debt charges you more than 7% in interest, then you're better off paying that down as quickly as possible instead of investing. So we will clear this first, and then from that point on, we don't take on any new consumer debt, no new payment plans, no financing the new phone, because you cannot drain a bathtub with the tap still running. If your debts have an interest rate under 7%, then you can keep paying the minimum amount of money that you have to pay back towards those debts, and you can start looking into the good stuff, because everything up to this point was defense, and now we get to play offense. Step 5. This is the part where we actually build, because now we start investing. And if you've been following this channel, you know that this is my favorite part, because this is where you stop just being organized with money and you start actually building wealth. So you open a broker account, you pick a broad, diversified ETF, and you set up an automatic monthly transfer. Even if it starts at $50 a month, the amount matters far less than the automation behind it, because automation removes you from the equation, and it removes your moods, your busy weeks, and all of your "I'll do it next month" excuses. It will just happen in the background of your life. If there's a voice in your head that's saying, what's the point? I should have started years ago, or I will never be able to do this, or investing isn't for me, then I need to be honest with you, instead of comforting, that yes, earlier would have been better, but the comparison that matters is not you versus the person who started at 22. It is you starting now versus you starting after 5 more years of feeling behind. That gap is enormous, because the money that you invest now still has decades to compound, and the most expensive mistake was never starting late. It was letting the shame about being late delay you even longer. If you have no idea on how to get started, I would highly recommend signing up for the free trial of Rich Girl Academy, which I will link in the description. We have a full investing course in there that really tailors it to your personal goals. It teaches you how to invest with any budget from $50 to $50,000, and it does it in a way that is easy and simple and fits in your daily life. It doesn't require you to become a finance whiz. Which brings me to the trap I mentioned at the beginning, because this is the point in the journey where it catches most people. The trap that feels like progress. I want you to stop over-analyzing your finances, and I want you to start thinking about how to fix it and start taking action instead. Because quitting doesn't actually always look like quitting. Sometimes it just looks like doing more research, watching your 15th video about investing without ever opening a broker account. It's comparing platforms for 3 months, or waiting for the salary raise, or downloading the budgeting app, color coding the spreadsheets, telling yourself you're getting informed before you start. And that feels productive. That's what makes it so dangerous. Scrolling your way through financial content gives you the feeling of progress with none of the risks of actually doing something. But feeling informed and being invested are two completely different financial situations, because one of them compounds and the other one doesn't. I did this myself, by the way, so I know what I'm talking about. I once waited 2 years to invest in something I already really believed in, because I kept telling myself I needed to be more certain first. I needed more information, yada yada. The certainty never came, and the investment blew up. Actually, the certainty did come, but only after I finally started. But in that time, the investment already had blown up without me in it. Now, I need to share one more thing, because this video promised honest, so here it is. This whole plan, depending on where you're starting, takes some time to work through, and it's not a fix your finances in a week type of situation, right? Because that doesn't exist. The progress might seem invisible at first, and then suddenly it's not anymore. One day, an unexpected bill lands, and you just pay it without panic or a credit card, and that version of you is one decision and a few months away from now. The decision part, if you watched this far, I think you've already made it. If you want to learn more about making money and setting all of this up so that your brain can finally relax a little, again, I would love to invite you into Rich Girl Academy, my membership and community, where I cover all things money, investing, budgeting, and building wealth, and where you can ask me anything along the way. you can now try it completely free for 7 days with the link in the description, and I will see you there.